Well, aloha and welcome to iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers in Technology conference sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Patrick and I'll be facilitating this session. We're so honored to have Nicole Goff join us today to share her expertise through a 45-minute presentation named The Wonderful World of Padlet. Please be aware that we'll be recording this session. If you don't like being recorded, you may consider turning off your camera during the session or reviewing the recording afterwards. The recording will be made available to you on YouTube and shared on iTeach808's website a week after the event. So without further ado, I turn it over to Nicole Goff.
Recording in progress. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole, and I hope that this Padlet tutorial proves useful. A little bit about me. I am one of the librarians at Mid-Pacific Institute. We are a little private school in Manoa servicing preschool through grade 12, and I get to work with almost all of those grades, kindergarten through 12th grade. So some days I'm getting to read stories and do browse and borrow with grades 1 and 2, and sometimes I'm getting to help the IB juniors plan out their extended essay research questions. So there's a lot of stuff going in between, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to share the bit I know about Padlet. So if this is not your jam, you can scoot. And I also want to thank the Augustine Educational Foundation and of course Sacred Hearts for this opportunity as well. Rule of 2 feet, if this is not your thing, you can scoot at any time. And oh, please remember to fill out the survey that you will probably receive at the end of our time together today so that you could possibly win a gift card. I think it's to Target, which is pretty cool. So Padlet. I was initially going to kind of get an answer and response kind of thing going, question and response kind of thing going. But sorry, we are open right now. Hi kids. But since we are kind of a tight group and probably most of us will be watching this on our own, I will just get right into Padlet unless Mark and Laurel, you want to share your experiences with Padlet. Why don't you go ahead, share your names, where you're from, and what you've done with Padlet so far. Mark, you can unmute first.
In the chat, or you want to do with microphone?
Out
Sorry.
loud. Why not? Let's give the people something to watch.
I'm Mark Hines. I'm at Mid-Pacific Institute. I've been working with teachers, and we use Padlet in professional learning with teachers as a means to collectively both generate ideas and give each other feedback. So I'm really interested to see some of the different ways that you see how Padlet gets used, because we have found it to be a really wonderful tool for common ideating and reaching agreements and narrowing and broadening our ideas depending upon what we're trying to do. Very
cool. Laurel, have you used Padlet at all?
I have not. I've been using Jamboard a lot when we've had to like quickly go to distance learning. Like I changed all my Google Slides into Jamboard so they're more interactive. But I saw a small demo of Padlet Saturday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is better than Jamboard because you can do the likes, you can do like the gifts. I mean, there's like so much. I only scratched the surface. So I'm really curious how it has transformed your curriculum and how like you integrate it into like your day-to-day use. But it looks really awesome. So it sounds like it's kind of like on the cutting edge of like every school should use this. Yeah. And then also how you save student work and stuff, like how you archive everything. Yeah,
it's been pretty cool. So I'm kind of excited to share a whole bunch of different Padlet types that we have used. And by we, I mean myself and Dave he's the other librarian. And just like Laurel said, when we scooted to distance learning, we found Padlet to fill a void, not just a niche, but a void. It made so much teaching, learning, communicating, collaboration. It made all of that kind of possible again, even though we were each, Zooming from our own bedrooms and bathrooms, some of us, because that's where I get the best light. So I'm excited to share some examples that we already have, things that we've created with our students. And Don't forget, I believe in one of the documents that was shared, Laurel, Oshiro, and all of the people with 808 have just been so fantastic about keeping up with all of the different Zoom links and presentations and stuff like that. So creating a Padlet, if you've never made one before, that presentation is shared in one of the spreadsheets that was shared with all of the attendees. So what I will be letting you guys sort of see today through my screen are a Padlet from a personal account, and Padlet is free, but you only get 3 Padlets to make at a time. You can delete them so that you can constantly be creating new ones. But if your school or organization purchases what they call a backpack account, each person, each creator has like an unlimited amount of Padlets. So if you do teach 7 different sections, or you want to make one for every group of library kiddos that come in, you have that opportunity. And if anyone is interested in learning a little bit more about the backpack account for a school, I can be reached at ngoff@midpac.edu, and I'm sure that information will be available through the iTeach808 documents as well. But I'm happy to share that out. So it is free, but it's limited, as most free things are. And with that, I'm ready to share my screen. So what I'd like to do first is sort of show a bunch of different Padlets that we've created. Some of them we've just made so that students can use stuff, and some of them we've made for students to actually manipulate themselves. So I'm so excited. It's like show and tell when you're in elementary school. I just got to get my correct stuff up. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Hopefully I'm sharing the correct thing. So right now you should be seeing, hi, Mrs. Goff, happy Wednesday in the upper left-hand corner. Right now I'm logged in to my school's Padlet account, and you can see the URL at the top has the name of our school. When you're in your personal Padlet, it's just padlet.com. But this is called your dashboard, and it's where you can see all of the different Padlets that you have made. Recents are going to be things that other people within your organization have made and made available for you to view. You can share Padlets, so more than one person can be manipulating the Padlet at the same time, sort of like co-hosting stuff. And then I am going to show this little feature because it's kind of important. I think it's the gear icon. These are your settings, and you can create your own username. The reason I'm highlighting this stuff is because Padlet's changed its interface since the last time I did a Zoom about Padlet. So some of the features look a little bit different, but using all of these options that are in the menu on the left-hand side will sort of help you navigate through the back end of your Padlet. And these 3 dots right here, if you are in a school account, and I'll show you what this looks like from a personal account as well, this is how you can manage people. So even if you're not like the person in charge of purchasing your Padlet subscription, as a Padlet user within your school's backpack account, you can add students so that when they create stuff, if you want their name to be shared, it will be visible for folks. So just a few things to keep up with on the page. Obviously, all of these colorful blocks here in the middle are previews or like thumbnails of the different Padlets that we've made, and I'm going to take you guys through some of them. So the 3 to 5 grade Padlet, this is an example kind of like what Laurel referenced earlier about shifting quickly to Zoom learning. And before I scooch along, I'm hoping that I'm sharing the correct Zoom screen. Are you guys seeing a yellow background with donuts? Awesome. Okay, so when we shifted to Zoom learning a year or so ago, we wanted to be sure that our elementary kiddos had access to some safe but fun educational tools online, especially during our week of conferences. Normally, those would be like no school days and parents would be coming. But with the shift to the campus being closed, there wasn't really a way for everybody to figure out what to do with their kiddos. So we created places for the students to go, which I realize just sounds like we encourage the parents to go, here's an iPad, entertain yourself. But we wanted them to have kind of fun places to go and fun things to do. So this version of a Padlet right now is one that no one but myself or Dave can edit. What we would do is we would share this link. The kiddos could open it up. And then if they were interested in books, they could scroll down this column, click on the YouTube link, hear a story. If they were interested in animal adventures, you know, I apologize for how old some of these things are. Probably some of the links by now don't work. This is one that we have closed. We haven't archived or deleted it, but it's one that the students aren't using anymore. I just really like the layout, so I keep it as an example. So this is one way you can use Padlet to just simply have sources on hand for students to access digitally. And you can title everything the way you want it. You can make as many columns as you want, but it's a nice way to organize things for your students if you need them to, you know, look at biographies, or today we're going to look at National Geographic, or today we're going to look at types of primary sources. So one type of Padlet. Oh, thank you. It's very visual. So right now I am back on my dashboard. You'll notice that every time you open a Padlet, it does open as a separate tab. With that in mind, as I'm thinking about this, Padlet is also an app. Our school is one-to-one with iPads, and the nice thing about Padlet, and possibly with Jamboard, but we found that Padlet was a little bit easier for our students to manipulate, for our teachers to understand. There is an app, and it works very much the same way as how everything appears and works on the screen of a laptop. So I really like that it translates well from, you know, from iPad app to what you're seeing as you're working online on your desktop or on your laptop. So this is one, wait, is this it? Sorry, I have to move my, okay, 2 months ago. So we actually have a class of 6th graders. Every so many weeks, we get a new bunch of 6th graders as they sample all of the different electives that our school offers. It's kind of a fun way to get into middle school. And so what you're seeing now, yay! What you're seeing now is a Padlet that I made, and I made it available to my students so that they could edit it. They can't edit any of the features at the top. Like obviously I titled it LT6 is short for Library and Technology 6, but I wanted them to practice using you know, a digital tool like Padlet, but also encourage them to share their likes and their dislikes. So we made it all about book talks. And what the students got to do is, of course, find an image or an icon of a book that they liked or didn't like, and then share a brief description about that book. The cool thing about Padlet, almost like other social media that the kids are probably familiar with, is you can allow or disallow likes and comments. So one of the things I try to encourage my students to do is if those features are available on a platform, let's test them out. So everyone created their own book talk, and then they were encouraged to find 2 other stories that they've never read before and comment on those students' book talks as well. So this is an example of a type of Padlet used with slightly older kiddos, and it's allowing them to actually manipulate the Padlet themselves. Finally, I want to show you some of the cool things that we've done with our high schoolers. So what you're seeing now, we use LibGuides at our school, and we've been doing some work with our high school students with regards to source evaluation. You know, how do you know if something is a rumor? How do you know if something is true? How can you tell if something is credible? If you have these different types of sources, how would you sort of structure them? How would you sort of decide if it was a primary, you know, secondary type of source, all that fun stuff. And again, all of the different Canvas types of Padlet allow you to create ways for the students to manipulate them differently. So this is an example. This is one that Mr. Wee used. He embedded it in a source, or sorry, a LibGuide that we did with one of our classes about SIFT, which is it's a source evaluation protocol created by Mike Caulfield, and it stands for Stop, Investigate, I think Find, I should know because I'm the librarian, and Trace. And it's an acronym that helps students hopefully guide them through this mental process of determining whether or not a source is valuable or credible, or what is the limit, what is the value of a source. So here what Mr. Wee was doing was he presented this Padlet to people, to the students in the class, and they had to get into groups and come up with their own believability factors. How would you, and the reason it looks kind of empty is because this is an ongoing little project that we're doing with them. So how would you decide what the most important believability factor is as you come across information, you know, and what are the other ways or types of determining if something is believable. So it sort of encourages the students to put into their own terms what we usually spit out at them, you know, find the publisher and establish credibility and blah, blah, blah. Another example of using this with high schoolers. Yes, so this was really cool. The reason all of these columns look blank is because Dave set the settings so that the students could move the items themselves. So in this column, he had a source bank of different types of sources. This is a biography about someone. This is an autobiography. This is footage. This is text from something. And then the students got into the Padlet and then they pulled these items over to the appropriate columns, determining whether or not they thought it was a tertiary source or a primary source. So again, there are a lot of ways people can use Padlet. And again, in one of the documents that was shared, there is a link to my presentation on simply setting up your Padlet so that you can kind of create that stuff yourself. What I would like to do though, since we do have a little extra time, since we don't, we're not gonna really play amongst ourselves, is I want to show you guys how you can set up a Padlet. For some of us, I think it might be easier to simply watch a video versus going through a presentation. So I'm going to quickly set up a Padlet for you guys to watch if you want. So here we go. I'm going to come back now to my dashboard. And even though I am in my, what's it called? Professional Padlet, or my school Padlet. Here, I'll switch over for just a second so you can see what a personal Padlet looks like. It's very, very similar. But again, you can only have 3 Padlets at a time. Here. I've got my personal stuff in Safari. So here is my very empty, sad Padlet. And I think we'll stay here when we make this Padlet, because if you don't have a backpack account with your school or organization, then this is how you're going to start. So I'm also Mrs. Goff here. I hope that's not too confusing. This is actually how I started playing with Padlet, and then our school got the backpack account. So everything looks like this. You're going to come over to make a Padlet. And these are all of the different, what I call canvases or types of Padlets that you can play with, depending on how you want your students to manipulate stuff or the way in which you want to present your information. Personally, there are 2 that I've never played with. I haven't played with Map, and I haven't played with the Canvas. I just played with the Timeline. I will admit it's a little bit tricky to have students manipulate pulling stuff across their iPad screens, but they had great fun with a project that we recently did where they were doing biographical research, and they got to find their people, Napoleon, Marie Antoinette, Jonas Salk, and then see, you know, how these people sort of lived through history. For the purposes of this brief tutorial, I will select grid, but notice that your preview option does allow you to see what these different Padlets are going to look like. When you select the type of Padlet you want to create, don't fret. Once you create it, if you realize, oh, this would actually look better as a wall, you can always go back and change it. But all of your editing features are going to appear in the margin on the right-hand side, and everything you change, you are going to want to save. Titles and descriptions, they always come up with something super cute, and you can always change it. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I will keep it the way it is. Your icons, kind of fun to play with, especially if you're going to make this engaging for your students. So that, you'll notice, appears on your Padlet page towards the left-hand side next to your title and your description. Going back now, your address, you can actually change this to be something that's a little bit easier. So with a lot of my school stuff, I will change it to like the class name, like LT6 Book Talks. I will make this 808. I teach 808 test. Yay. And then you can play with your appearances. If you want a different gradient or wallpaper, you can add your own wallpaper. It's really, you could spend a lot of time in this little editing feature. There are different font styles. I prefer the one that's sans serif because I think it's the easiest to read. But this part's pretty important, your posting features. This is what your page is going to look like if you allow people to manipulate it or edit it or add comments and stuff like that. So if you are going to make a page it's kind of like the book talk page that I showed earlier. You do want to either decide, I want everything to be anonymous or I want attribution. How do you want things to go? So if you want newest stuff posted first or everything to sort of go in order from first to last, are you going to allow people to comment on stuff or not? Are you going to allow reactions? And so these are your different reactions. People can give thumbs up or they can like a post, do hearts and stuff like that. So notice that whenever you tap on something, if it features more options, it's going to open up into a new window, and then you're going to use the little back button to come back to this original part. One feature that we end up using a lot if we are going to make something that's kind of shared with more than one class or with a bunch of grade levels is the require approval. So like what I had our students do with those book talks, for example, is they would write their book talks. I would check it for editing and spelling, and then I would approve it if they had, completed those requirements. The filter profanity feature is really cute. It just replaces bad words with like an angry emoji, but I've never had, thank you, I've never had a need to use it yet, but it is there.
That's so funny.
I know, it's pretty precious. So I'm cool with all of this stuff. I'm going to say next in the upper right hand corner. And now you can start posting, but I want to show you a few more editing features. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on the start posting feature here because I want you guys to notice there are options up here at the top. And honestly, the share feature is pretty important. While your attribution features that we noticed earlier are how your students or how your audience is going to access and how your page is going to look, this option here, and again, I'll tap on close. Notice that the share feature is up here in the upper right hand corner. This is how your colleagues are going to be able to also be co-hosts. This is how the people who access your Padlet from the link or the QR code that you send, what they'll be able to do. So add members, if I did want to share everything with my colleague, Dave Wee, then I would search for him because he is also a user, perhaps within this organization. But this secret is default and it's pretty safe, but you can change the privacy. So if you do want everyone to find your Padlet, that's awesome. That's a feature there. But all of these different options, do read them carefully because depending on your organization's requirements, you may need to change them if you want people to only be able to access your Padlet with a password, for example. And then if you want visitors to write, your visitor permissions are down here at the bottom. So writing, they can only read. So that's what we had, the bright yellow Padlet with the orange donuts for our grades 3 through 5 kiddos. All they can do is read. They're not allowed to edit it at all. But if you did want your students to edit it, so like the one that Mr. Wee created where the high schoolers could scoot those sources to primary source or tertiary source, then you make it available for everyone to edit as long as they can access your Padlet. So this privacy feature is pretty key in making your Padlet accessible for your users. All of these features I also mentioned in the presentation link that I've shared previously. And it's just Padlet is just such a fun place to go and just try to test stuff out. But those are the key features that I think are kind of important to creating it so that you can have success with your Padlet. I am going to check the chat real quick. Yes. So Dave was able to that you can embed this. When we work with LibGuides, there is a feature that sort of walks us through the steps of finding that HTML code and plugging it in. I have not played with Google Sites, but I'm assuming that they would have an option for that as well. The question was, can you embed your Padlet? And yes, you can. I think there's a share on Google Classroom feature, save as image, save as PDF, embed in your blog or website. Close. What I can show you, I'll stop sharing this and I'll come back to Chrome because that's where I have our LibGuides is. So again, this is the one that Dave created where folks could scoot their sources over, but you'll notice, I'll scoot up a little bit, you'll notice that there is also an option here to take it out of the live guide and come to the Padlet page itself, just so you can see everything a little bit bigger. And because the students, because he set those sharing settings so that anybody could edit, the students were able to drag stuff as well on their own to show their learning. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing now. Does anyone have any questions? All two of you. And it's cool if you don't.
I really love all those templates. I didn't realize that like Padlet had so many options. Yeah, that is so cool. You said you've tried almost all of them. Could we see what they kind of look like in terms of like the difference between the different ones? I think there were like 7 of them. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let me be sure that I'm sharing the correct one, because again, since we have the backpack account, most of what I've played with, I have in my professional one or my school account. So I just want to be sure we're on the right page. Okay, so we looked
and then,
at.
oh, I'm so sorry. Before I forget, also, how much is the paid version? Don't
let me forget to answer that.
Okay,
I have it saved in an email somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't able to have everything up on my screen at the same time for some reason. Of course, today's the day I said yes, do an update, and that was not a good plan. So anyway, I will definitely share that with you in just a moment. I asked that question when before I presented my first Padlet, so I'm sure the prices have increased a little bit, but at least it will give you an idea. But before I forget, since we're here, let's take a look at what all of the different Padlet canvases kind of look like. So the first one I shared with you guys, this is the one where everything is in columns. What you do as the creator is you get to title all of these different columns, and then either you can add stuff below, or you can make it editable for your students so that they know where to plug in stuff. And this is also what we saw with Mr. Wee's example when he had like the tertiary and the different primary sources and stuff like that. This timeline, I just used this for the first time with my students recently. And so all I had them do was go to a database or article, find their person, find how to spell their name and their birth and death dates, so that we could kind of see how the timeline would work. So the way it works on an iPad is very similar. You're going to toggle using this little circle feature, but because, and I don't know if it was a Wi-Fi issue or because 24 of us were all on the same Padlet, there was a bit of a delay. So like Helen Keller would scoot, and then Jim Thorpe would scoot, and then everybody was out of order again. So it ended up that I was the one who put everything in order. But if you notice that yellow line comes up when you've selected the item you want to scoot, and then you can just drag it left or right and you'll see where it ends up. So that's something I had the students play with recently as we looked at all of these amazing people throughout history. So that's the timeline option. The book talks are what I have. This is the first option that's presented when you're looking at all of your different canvases, where the whole screen is going to fill up. So it's not quite as structured as everything is in a column, obviously, but it's just going to fill however you have, your options set, first to appear first or last to appear first. And they're not really structured in a grid, which would be separating everything. I can show you an example. So this is the grid. It's almost like the wall, but everything is going to look, regardless of where it ends, it's going to kind of fill in below everything. Not using good words right now. So this one is called, I think, the stream. And so it's just going to be one long, almost like the original blog posts were, right? Just one long thing. And again, all these different backgrounds you're seeing and all these different icons are things that you can play with in those editing features. But the two that I haven't tried out are this one. This is your organization chart. I'm assuming, but I haven't played with this, but I'm assuming that your students, depending on your editing options, would be able to add posts and then director decide how those arrows are going to go. Sorry, I
Wow,
have
that's
to.
like Padlet. It's like Padlet,
Yeah,
but it does
I remember
everything.
Padlet. That's right.
Yeah. Is the administrator version different than like the student version, or like the teacher version different than the student? Like when you get the paid account, is it only for teachers?
That's a really good question, because I've never asked a student to create his or her own Padlet. However, when I am logged in, as I am now, into my teacher account, and I go to manage people, I see everyone almost as if they're equal. I hesitate to bring it up because I don't want to show too many names. And I know on the book talk page, I had like everyone's name. I forgot to make them all anonymous. Sorry. But you, regardless of your administration level, whether you're, again, the purchaser or just another teacher, you can add students yourself. But that's a really great question, Laurel. I don't know if students, as they enter into Mid-Pacific's backpack account, if they can create their own Padlets as well. That's a really good question. What I do know is that regardless of your backpack or personal account, all of these features are available. So you see all the same Canvas options and most of the same editing options.
I would say, Nicole, I think, because I've worked with our IT guy, Brian, and what he does is, as the administrator of the account, he can say which email addresses, when they log into Padlet, have, and we use Google domain, so I think you can just log in with your Google account. So there's no distinguishing a student or a teacher in the sense of, if they're identified as someone who can create Padlets in the account, then you can do that, right?
Okay. I know that when I am seeing the manage people, I am able to tell if it is a student or a teacher, but I don't know if differentiating between those two affects your powers within Padlet. And then the last one, again, I haven't played with the map option, but this might be kind of cool if you are doing like biographical research or geographical research to kind of test out. This is what your map, this is a map option. So it looks like here we've got different locales. You can almost like, what was that site called? ThingLink, almost, where you have your image, but then embedded within that image are like hidden little blurbs about items as well. Okay, so our final question, I am going to stop sharing so that y'all can't see my inbox. I'm going to go into my mail and find that information from our awesome IT folks about our Padlet backpack account.
Nicole, while you're looking for that, I did have one question.
Sure.
When you were showing us the setting for posts, and one of the options was request approval or something like that. When someone submits a post, if you're the organizer of the Padlet, how do you get that request, and can you give feedback? In other words, is it just like allow or don't allow, or can you amend it with a comment?
I have never seen an option to do, that's a good question. I've never seen an option to do amended with a comment. One of our middle school members who organizes a lot of like our field days and stuff like that, she creates a lot of these Padlets that she allows the students to post things to. So like, show us your Halloween costume, but she always has that setting to that will alert her to approve or disapprove items that are posted. The way it looks like on the back end for the creator of the Padlet is you're seeing the Padlet fill up with everything everyone is submitting, but you have a little toggle at the bottom of each of those little bento boxes that will allow you to approve or disapprove. But that's a really great question, Mark. I've never noticed a feature that would allow you to almost message back the creator of that post so that they would know what to fix. When I've used that feature, I'm always in class with my students, so I can say, you know, Ethan, can you fix the title and blah, blah, blah. Does that answer your question? Okay, so last thing that I was going to share, thank you, Laurel, for asking this question. Per our wonderful IT folks, we have a plan that includes a certain amount of users. At the moment, we have a little over 500 users. And I think that what does this say? 500 users was about 2,000 per year. So because we have a little more than that, I'm assuming we're paying a little more than 2,000 per year. It is an annual subscription. And because we do have that limit, we kind of have to keep up with how many students we're adding, which is why it's kind of, if they don't have a Padlet account, they can still add stuff to it. It'll just appear as anonymous if we have the attribution feature toggled on so that we can see, oh, Samantha submitted something, oh, Ethan submitted something. Even if they don't have a Padlet account, they can still participate on the Padlet. And that kind of takes care of not exceeding our numbers.
Oh, that's good to know. Wow, that's cool that they have an anonymous feature. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. That's actually all of the information I prepared. I had initially allowed time, if we had a larger group, I was going to make a Padlet and have everybody kind of test it out. But if there aren't any other questions, I guess we can scoot. Thank you again to Sacred Hearts and the Augustine Educational Foundation. Don't forget to fill out that survey, folks, when it comes your way. And Laurel, are you checking books in?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well,
it looks like you're presenting me with stuff,
yes,
but I can't quite reach
know.
it.
No, I found out. Yeah. Well, anyway, found out I'm going to be having visitors this afternoon. I'm like, fantastic.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
so I'm like
sweet.
cleaning the library while attending, but I really enjoy your presentation a lot. Like I think this is one of the most powerful tools I've learned in the past year.
It's
and
been
backtracking
really fun.
to last year too. Yeah.
It's been really fun to play with all of the different styles and all of the different settings and what are we going to allow students to do. And the fact that you can make it so that your colleagues can, share in the editing features as well is really nice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you back
very
again.
welcome. Thanks again for this opportunity. If there's nothing else to share, then I guess I'm going to scoot. And I hope folks, if you're watching this on your own, that this has proved useful. Reach out to me again, ngoff@midpac.edu if you have any questions. And thank you so much for spending time with me.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Nicole. And thanks again, everyone, for your participation. Again, I just wanted to remind everybody, I think some of you have heard this before, but we do hope that you found this session valuable. And we hope that you would help us complete the survey at the iTeach808 website. It's iTeach808.com, and it'll be on the left side, the fourth link down. And the survey, will also be sent to an email address that you registered with. And if you don't see it, it might be in your spam folder. So we ask that you check your spam folder for any emails from iTeach808Hawaii@gmail.com. And, again, you'll be entered to win one of 20 $5 Target, you're correct, Target gift cards if you complete the survey by February 4th. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. And please feel free to join the other sessions that are coming up. And again, hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Patrick. Good luck with the rest of your day.